Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video. Today I am reviewing a pen, actually a little range of pens from Faber-Castell. It is a new pen in their lineup, a new entry-level, reasonably affordable pen in their lineup. It is the Hexo. So this is how, this is the standard like shelf packing. You can get more elaborate boxes for the Hexo, but this is the simple packing you'd get like off the shelf. And here is the pen. Now this is the rosé version. It's a champagne-y sort of pink color, rose gold color, and it's an all aluminium pen, anodized aluminium, with a painted clip, snap cap, and pretty sort of standard, features. One thing about this pen is the hexagonal shape, hence the name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the pen. I'll talk about some of the parts, features, all that sort of stuff. I also have the rollerball and the ballpoint versions to show you, which I will do in just a second. But let's talk about, I'll do a writing sample with them all, and then give you some pros and cons about the fountain pen model in particular. Okay, so the top of the pen has the jousting knights who are jousting with pens. It's sort of on a domed top, the hexagonal shape obviously running down the pen as the cap tapers down slightly, and then the barrel tapers down slightly to a simple another domed end there. It's got a painted metal clip. The rose gold version here has, or the rosé version has a black painted clip. It's got the branding there on the barrel of the pen. And that's about it for the outside. That's just the the sticker for the sale. As you snap the cap off, one thing you notice is it's a nice secure cap, and there are these little grooves around the end of the section there. These correspond with little grooves on the plastic liner of the cap, and that means that when you try to post the cap the pen without those facets lining up, it just won't go in, and it sort of automatically lines, it guides itself into one of those positions. Now it doesn't mean the logo is always going to be on the top. You can post it, you can cap it without it there, but it does mean you can always get a nice lineup with the facets down the pen, that hexagonal shape that tapers through the pen, which is very nice. So when you take the cap off, you have a plastic section, and it is circular. There is no, unlike some other fountain pens, there is no triangular grip or anything like that. It just tapers and then it'll flare out to the end there, and then we get a simple steel nib. This one is a medium, and I have a medium and fine here to show you, and the rosé version comes with a black nib there. And it's, the section is sort of semi-translucent. You can see the feed through it, and it's good. It's a really good solid pen. So that is the rosé version. We also have here the silver version, which has the label, the writing in black, but it has a silver painted clip. You uncap it once again, translucent black section, and then a steel chrome colored nib, and this one is a fine. And then I also have here, which is one I've been using a lot, the black version. And this one has been beaten up and used for the last few weeks, given a bit of a ride. So there are some little chips in the anodization and stuff like that. But this has been a pen that has been used now for a number of weeks, and not overly gently, like used as an everyday writing pen. Once again, you still get the same logo on the top. Black painted clip, not the matte version of the clip that is on the rosé. It's some more sort of shiny satin sort of colored. You get the same round black translucent section, and the black one of course comes with a black nib. This is a medium. So I've inked up a fine and a medium so that I can do a writing sample for you. These are cartridge converter pens. Standard International. The pen I don't think necessarily comes with a converter, but you can get Faber-Castell branded converters. And in Faber-Castell pens, I tend to think it's probably better to get a Faber-Castell branded converter, just because some tend to sort of be a bit finicky in what will actually fit. Now, if we look at this section here, you get sort of The threads are, quite strong and plastic. This pen can probably not be turned into an eyedropper. There are metal components, but you see like a little groove in there. That corresponds to the little groove on the inside of the barrel, which you can feel lock that pen into place as you screw it in, which is really nice and secure. There's no particularly bad step down, like you don't feel that. The section is a good size and the pen is a good size. It does post very well, so and the balance is still very good because the weight of this pen is quite light, but it fits nicely in the hand. I use it actually unposted most of the time, just because the size of the pen feels substantial enough in the hand. It is a small nib, so the distance away, I tend to hold it slightly further back on the grip so that I get still a good distance away from the page, but there's plenty of space there on this section because it is a good size section. As you can see there are those grooves on the inside of the plastic liner of the cap there. One thing I want to talk about a little bit with the fountain pen version is the nib. It is a smaller nib. They come from extra fine through to broad, and I have a set of medium and a fine here to write with, but you can get a range of nibs for the pen. Now, this is not the same nib as you get on, say, the Faber-Castell Loom. If we look at them, we see they are very different nibs. It's not just that one is deeper set than the other. They are a different nib and nib unit. The manufacturing of the nib is different. The shape of the nib is different. They are a different nib, okay? So therefore, they do write differently. We know about the quality of the writing from the Loom. It's renowned for having a beautifully smooth nib, and the nib on these are different. Like, this is the sort of nib that you find on, say, the grip. This is the same nib and nib unit. So obviously chrome and black, but the same nib across these two models of pen. And I quite like it. It's not as smooth or not as wet as the traditional Loom nib, but it does write very well, and it writes consistently. And Faber-Castell do really lovely things with their steel nibs. Before we go into size comparisons and specs and stuff of these pens, I want to show the other two pens. So firstly, we have the Rollerball. Now, yes, it is externally almost identical to the fountain pen. So it's going to be the same sort of dimensions and all of that, but it is a Rollerball. And it has a standard sort of Rollerball quick drying ink cartridge in there. You can also have apparently there's also a fine liner version as well, but this is the Rollerball, and it feels really nice in the hand. I do like writing with this. It's got a good sort of size. If you're a fountain pen user and you want a Rollerball pen, but or a ball pen of some variety, this is actually a very good option because the grip is so similar to a standard fountain pen grip that you don't feel like you're writing with like a skinny Bic ballpoint pen or something like that. Speaking of ballpoint pens, here is the Hexo ballpoint pen. So the section is narrower here. You don't have as pronounced an actual section. It feels right to hold it there on this little flare. It is a twist ballpoint pen, and the twist action on this I love. Like to pull the ball out there's a little springy sort of resistance there on the turn, which I really enjoy, and nice and easy to put it back. The clip, and same for the Hexo fountain pens, the clip is nice and springy and secure, and doesn't feel like it's gonna snap sort of or break too easily. This is the black version, of course. All three models of the pen are available in the black, silver, and rosé. It's got a plastic end there, and this takes a standard ballpoint pen refill, and this one has a broad tip in there. As you can see, it's quite the size of the ball, black ink. This is a nice pen. It's much narrower, but because you've got like a nice little flare on the end there, you never feel like you're running down it. And you'll see in the writing sample that actually the ink refill included with this pen is actually fairly nice. So that's the ballpoint version. Now, let's do some size comparisons here for the Faber-Castell Hexo. So the pens I wanted to compare this version to, as you can, we have the Rollerball here as well, just for the sake of the exercise, because why not? Here is the Lamy Safari. So you can see it's like quite a similar sort of size to the Safari, if a little girthier, which is nice. It's nice, substantial sort of feel in the hand. As it's an aluminium pen, I think it compares in several ways to something like the All-Star, which is the same sort of size once again. A couple of other Faber-Castell pens to put it in the ballpark with. Here is the eMotion, which is a much more expensive pen model, but one that is worth looking at for sure. We have the Grip here, which is their one of their most affordable fine writing pens. So it's a good size. We can see here it's a good size pen. And one other Faber-Castell pen, I might as well put it here as well. Put the Loom in. So you can see it's a bit bigger than the Loom. It's a tiny bit longer and like I said, a little bit sort of girthier. And if you want girthier, here is the Neo Slim, which is a little longer, but obviously much, much slimmer. Let's see a couple of these uncapped. So when it's uncapped, you actually see it's actually it's not a particularly long pen, but it has good sort of size still nonetheless. And when posted, it's actually a really nice length. It's not too long. It does post quite deep, as you can see there alongside a couple of these other pens. It does post very nice and deep. As I said, it gives good balance in the hand, and it's not too long. So that is the capped posted lengths of these pens. Just to put the ballpoint pen into some context now, once again put it alongside Lamy Safari here, because it's a pen that a lot of us fountain pen users know, and a couple of obviously more sort of affordable ballpoint pen options are the Pilot G2 and then the Zebra Sarasa click there. So we have a couple of, that gives a good idea of sort of the length of the ballpoint pen there as well. Now back to the fountain pen, measurements for this. So capped, it is 139 millimeters. So it's right around that sort of really common 140 mark. Uncapped, it is 123. So it is just long enough, I think, to use unposted. I find it very comfortable. I find the weight really nice in my hand that way. Posted is 158, so not too long and not too heavy, because the weight of the pen, like the whole pen weighs about 18 grams, 12 of which is in the body of the pen and 6 is in the cap. So the balance doesn't go too far off. It still feels relatively nice. For me, the only issue is that the edge of the cap, which isn't sharp, but you can feel it on the webbing of your hand there. The section averages around the 11 millimeter mark, so it's a healthy size section. So let's now do a writing sample with a couple of these pens and some pros and cons. Here I have some Clairefontaine 90 gram paper. I thought I'd just do a quick writing sample with the two fountain pens that I've got inked up, so giving the two nib options that I have. So this is the Faber-Castell Hexo with a steel. This is a fine nib, and the ink in both of these is Faber-Castell Black Schwarz. So automatically you can hear for a fine nib, firstly it's quite fine. You can hear though there is a bit of feedback, but it is smooth. It's not scratchy at all. It's just feedback. Not the wettest pen, but not, I would say that the flow is fair to medium. But what I will say is that it is very, very reliable. And, it's a pleasant pen to write with. I prefer the medium, etc. It is a rigid nib. You are not going to get line variation. All you do is put more ink down on the page, and it is a considerable amount more, but you're not opening up the tines necessarily, so not something to be doing. Reverse writing with this one, fades away very quickly. Not really possible. Quick writing. A little bit of a, that was a user error, I think. you can see it keeps up really nicely. Let's now have a look at the medium nib, which I have here in the black model. You can already hear from the fine to the medium is much smoother. This is a steel, and I will write it correctly this time, medium nib. And once again, the ink is Faber-Castell Black. It's much smoother. Not at all scratchy. I've had this inked with a few different inks, and I just really like it. It's a little wetter, obviously, than the fine, and I think the flow on this one is really, really nice. It's consistent, smooth. Reverse is once again not really possible, pretty scratchy, and it dies away very, very quickly. Not a flex nib, still quite stiff. Just lays down a nice little amount of ink, and quick writing, it's going to have no trouble whatsoever. I did want to do a very quick writing sample here with the rollerball and ballpoint as well. So here I have the rollerball, which is obviously in the silver version, which I quite like. And this is the Faber-Castell Hexo rollerball. Nice and smooth. It's a wet liquid ink pen, and quite quick drying. Like, you know, for liquid ink, that's pretty good. But it's smooth. As I said, if you're a fountain pen user wanting a rollerball, something like this is a really good option because, like, it feels exactly the same as the fountain pen in the hand. The distances are all similar. The grip is exactly the same. So it is a nice sort of option if that is what you are looking for. Oh, just quickly, I will show you. I don't know if I showed it earlier. I'll show it again. The refill here is Faber-Castell, not picking up very well, it's a bit shiny. Faber-Castell branded roller refill ink, labeled 910 there on the end. I think it's a fairly standard size refill, but you know, if you look on a couple of websites online, you'll be able to see, you know, what actually fits in this pen if you wanted to get a particular sort of refill. And now for the ballpoint pen. This is the Faber-Castell Hexo ballpoint. Like at the start, it's like a little laggy for the first couple of letters, but that's not uncommon with any ballpoint. But this is smooth. Like if you listen, it's quite a smooth ballpoint. And in terms of like smear and dry, it's like there's a bit of smear there, but really, like, it's pretty good once again. The ink in this refill is indelible, so you know, we are talking about, you know, a fairly sort of good, you know, cartridge here. It says once again Faber-Castell 911, it's labeled there, 911 ballpoint pen, refill black and broad, or bold, or whatever. Seen it written both ways. Okay, so, but you know, once again, a standard sort of size. So if you were wanting something in particular, you could, you know, go out and find another sort of refill to put in this pen. But for me, I think it's actually a nice ballpoint refill. It's a nice feeling ballpoint pen. I do like the feeling of that mechanism, that little springy sort of, you know, turn. I think it looks nice as well. Like, it's not a particularly fancy looking sort of ballpoint pen, but it's got some class about it. Now, these have just only been released in Australia, and so pricing in Australia I haven't been able to find yet. So what I've done is I've taken the vague sort of price from a couple of US retailers, and it will just give you an idea of where it fits in the scheme of things. So the ballpoint pen retails from 30 to 35, the rollerball between around the 35-ish mark, and the fountain pen from 40 to 45. You know, those are some of the good prices I've seen sort of for these pens. So we are talking relatively entry level, well priced, nice and comfortable price if you're looking for, say, a next step on something like one of these. But you are getting a nice pen. These pens were designed for long writing sessions, for to be comfortable for writers, get people writing, and I think they've done a really nice job. Let's talk through some pros and cons now, and focusing on now the fountain pen. So I really only have two negatives about this pen, and one is my personal taste, and that is that the nib is just a little bit small, just aesthetically. I think like a bigger nib on this pen, even like the length of the nib on the loom, I think would be a nice look on this pen, because it is quite, like, it's not a long pen, but it is a girthy pen. Like, it's substantial, and it feels substantial in the hand, and then it has this like relatively small, which I'm guessing is like between a number 4 and number 5 sort of size nib. Proprietary nib for Faber-Castell, not made by them, but proprietary to their sizing, but it's just, for my take, just a little bit too small. The other negative about this pen is, once again, is with the nib, and that it is just, I don't think, as good as the nib on the loom. Like, that's just I know it's a more economy pen, it is a cheaper pen than the loom, but it's not as generous as the nib on the loom. I think the nibs that they have on the loom and the Emotion and pens like that are buttery smooth always. They're nice and sort of generous and wet, and just a joy to write with. And now, while this is incredibly reliable, I just don't get that same feeling on the page. That's just my take. What do I like about the pen? Well, I like the size and the weight. I think it's a nice sort of size pen. It's not particularly big, but it feels nice in the hand, and because of that material, it feels sort of robust. But it does have a lovely size in the hand, because that section is quite girthy. There's a bit of girth on the pen, and when you post it, it gives you a really nice length pen in the hand. The weight of the pen is also good, not too heavy, so you don't get particularly, don't get hand strain or anything like that, which you can from some heavier pens, but it's also not so light that you don't feel it in your hand, and the weight and the balance is good. It's reliable, like, it writes every time, first time. I've never had this pen dry out. I've never had the pen, skip or anything like that. It just writes, and it keeps writing. The feed is good, the nib is reliable, all of that. I love the fact that it lines up. You cannot post this pen without the facets lining up. It's such a cool little bit of simple engineering there in the cap liner, and with those little grooves, just so that it always lines bang up. You don't even have to look. Because the material is, it is metallic, there is a robustness to it, so you can easily throw this in your bag. As I said, I've been using the black model, and you can see little chips in the anodization. Now, this pen has been used for, I want to say, close to 2 months, been in my pocket, been around keys, all this sort of stuff. I just wanted to use it and see. I'm a pen user. I'm not fussed about things like the chipping. Like, from my take, that is something that is going to happen, but that will happen on a All-Star or any anodized metal pen. You will chip the anodization if you keep it in your pocket. Like, I wanted to have a pen that I could carry around, and this pen has suited that purpose. It's a very comfortable pen to use. As I said, it's a joy to write with, because it just feels nice in your hand. The other thing I love about Faber-Castell is that it's standard international. So if you buy cartridges from another brand, they will fit in a converter. As I said, probably best to get a Faber-Castell converter, but there are other brands that fit in the pen as well. But it is standard international, not proprietary like a number of other brands, including certain German brands. So this was the Faber-Castell Hexo. I think it's a pen that is a lovely new addition to the market. I think it's great for writers, it's great for students. I think it would actually be really good in the work space. You can have multiple different versions of the pen for different purposes. I think it's got a nice look. It looks modern, but it's traditional enough to not stand out. It's just a lovely pen. So thank you for watching, and I hope you found this video interesting and useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications button if you want to stay up to date with the videos that I produce. Please feel free to get in touch using any of the platforms listed below. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at @the_offstage_me, or you can contact me on any of my videos here, or drop me an email, which is listed below. If you've got products you think I should be looking at, or if there's a way you'd like to support the channel by sponsoring a review or providing an item for review, I would love to hear from you. In the meantime, enjoy your pens, enjoy your writing, and I'll talk to you soon.